Time starts with another interesting one as Uganda, of course, running over in the Afro basketball with, of course, Cameroon. They are doing very good. The quarter hour ran on very, very good, and they had not really had good in their previous game. So this time around, it is another. Welcome for this edition of the Whistle Time. Yet again, I am called Owen and you are watching West Nile TV. The Whistle Time starts with another interesting one as Uganda, of course, running over in the Afro basketball with, of course, Cameroon. They are doing very good. The quarter hour ran on very, very good, and they had not really had good in their previous game. So this time around, it is another good one. But of course, I will be right here today. We want to talk more of local sports only because it is getting to the weekend and a lot has been happening in the world of sports locally, and we shall be knowing what exactly is happening to West Nile sports in different aspects. And this time around, we will be having a representative from, that is the Federation of Uganda Football Association, or a FUFA delegate, who is with us right here. I'm not alone. Just like I did say, I am having a guest by the names of Joe Gaddafi still in with me, just like we did it yesterday. And today comes yet another edition for you. Joe, most welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here once again.
Local sports today only, and that's what I think we really need to talk to, because we need to impress West Nile in the sports.
That's very nice. So I was just checking through social media. I see Cranes in camp, and Coach Mitchell taking them through the theoretical aspect of the game. I think that's good for the growth of football in this country. So yeah, I look forward to how they'll be performing in the upcoming fixture.
Exactly. Now, if you look at that, Viper Sports Club have unveiled or announced a new head coach, who is, of course, by the names of Roberto, who is going to be taking through Vipers 2021-2022 up to 2025. A 3 years contract that he's going to be signed with the team. And it's another big one for Viper Sports Club right now. I am having a FUFA delegate by the names of Mike Letty in the studios, and he happens to be here at Whistle Time for the first time. Most welcome, Mr. Mike Letty.
Thank you.
Yes, the last time we met was the last games at it was at Royal Hill Stadium, where of course you were in charge of the game right there. And this time around, nice to meet you again and welcome yet again to West Nile TV. And this time around, probably doing the work that we are trying to analyze what is happening in West Nile. Thank you so much for representing West Nile in that is the federation level.
Thank you so much. It's a great honor and pleasure to be here on West Nile TV, our own. I've been exposed to so many TV stations, both international and national, but it's a really great honor to be featuring on our own. This is something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
Of course, before we get off there, he was supposed to, very soon he will be making a trip away from here, from that is the country, to make sure that he goes and assesses games that will be played in there. So probably it could be a luck for us as West Nile TV to have him in the show, and we'll be discussing. But let's start it from there. One of the biggest stories we could be talking about is West Nile football, West Nile sports activities has been very low. But when we talk about West Nile as West Nile, if you look at that, football has been one of the biggest that has come through and that has sold West Nile so much. Yes, we have seen athletics, but this time around we want to talk about the football aspect of it. Let's start with the development of players that are in West Nile, but not doing all the best. Not doing all the best to the, in a way that we would love to see our own West Nilers out of Uganda in the national team and doing, of course, more. But this time around, that is not what we expect. We have seen few names who have prospered in that is the diasporas. They go for international, go for professional things. But here in West Nile, few have gone, and we have seen them come back they are still nowhere to be found. I would love to know something a little about this, maybe. As being, of course, in this system, we have kept talking about, at least with Joe Gaddafi, yesterday we highlighted about it, but now you are right here with us. You've been in West Nile. You've kept staying in the football fraternity for quite a long time. What could be the biggest reason for our West Nile players not to prosper in the professional state?
Thank you so much, Owen, and West Nile TV. Possibly I didn't introduce myself in full. I cut across so many professions. Professionally, I'm a banker. I did 19 years of banking service with Uganda Commercial Bank, and I parted ways with the Stanbic Bank in 2004. And since then, I've embarked on other pieces of profession, doing social work, football administration. But very most importantly, I was a national player. I played a lot of football. Unfortunately, not in West Nile. I did most of my trade in Kampala, the Uganda Commercial Bank, Kampala City Football Club. And then, of course, I came back and embarked on football administration. Well, I am a FUFA delegate. I picked that one up in 2005. From 2005 to date, I've served in various positions, a member of FUFA Executive Committee under Lawrence Mulinda for 8 years. That was up to 2013. From 2013, I was given the mantle to serve as a CAF commissioner, which I did. To this day, I'm still a CAF commissioner. In 2017, CAF saw something good in me and decided to second me to FIFA. And right now, as I speak, I'm a FIFA match commissioner. And just as you said, next week, already I'm engaged. I will be working on behalf of CAF in Khartoum, managing the game between Sudan and Guinea-Bissau, the World Cup qualifiers for Qatar 2022. Now, what does it take to be a successful footballer? One, you must have a goal. And what is the goal? What do you want to do with your football? Are you playing for fun? Do you really see a future in football? Do you see a progression? What do you want to do with the talent that God has given you? So, how do you manage this? And how do you, of course, with the other social pressures that come along, you need to educate yourself. Playing football alone may not be the end because you may not go very far. You need to educate yourself. And then you need to pick other pieces of trade here along the way. Even if you become a successful footballer, what do you do with the success that comes with it? You know, the success, the pomp, the pride, the exposure, and everything that comes along with being a success story. What do you do with that? Do you know how to manage success? Can you manage failure? So psychologically, our players are not oriented enough to understand the journey that they've decided to take in life. So West Nile players are talented. We are some of the examples. I take myself, I take people like me, Sadiq Wasa, Robert Aloro, Haruna Mawa. These are some of the few names that I can mention. Why did we succeed where the others failed? We looked at football in totality. Looking at football in totality means managing it from lower levels up to the higher levels. In football, it was not the football playing book, it was my books. Then I put the boots onto books, play, read, and the rest is history. And that is why today I've remained relevant to the game of football. If I didn't study, I wouldn't be a FIFA match commissioner. What would the FIFA do with me? How would I write my reports? How would I be able to understand the new concepts of football? How would I be able to interpret? How would I be able to manage an event as big as a World Cup qualifier? Right now, as I speak, the match is on the 7th of September. But already I've written more than 5 reports and sent them to Switzerland, to our headquarters in FIFA. So that is how enormous the whole process is. So to cut the whole story short, our players, we need to talk to them. We need to make them understand what they are getting engaged in. We need to make them know that this is a livelihood. This is something that you're going to go into like as if there's no tomorrow. Do it today like as if there is no any other time, and you're going to succeed. Unfortunately, our players get involved in the national team, they are dropped. They get involved, they are dropped. Those who manage to go outside Uganda often find it a little bit difficult. Why do they find it difficult? Discipline issues come in. No, with the sport, I remember one time, somebody concentrated on insulting my mom. Very, very vulgar language, just to make me lose concentration. That time UCB was playing against Express, and I'd already scored 3 goals. And he wanted me to lose concentration. And indeed, at some point, I lost concentration. I could have scored more goals. But because the pain of my mother being insulted, I kept on. Luckily enough, I had one of the best coaches who was like a father to me, Big Ben Omodei. He told me, Mike, put in cotton wool in your ears and play football. At the end of the day, I still lost it. I still regret it. At the end of the day, the guy came around when we were walking out of the stadium, came close to me, I boxed him. Which should have even I should have been banned, but I survived it. So the whole thing, it goes down to discipline, goes down to what you want to do with your life, what do you want to do with the football that God has given you. These are God-given talents. He gives it to you freely. Make good use of it, become relevant to society, be a role model so that others can copy from you.
That's a very big one in there, but of course, key factors have been analyzed on why our own players do not prosper. Now, before I switch to Gaddafi, I would love to pose still one question to you on the same area. Now, as a FUFA delegate, as being at least for quite a number of years in this sports and the football activity, what have you done to make sure that our own in West Nile really need you? Which initiative have you brought on board to make sure that these players learn what it takes to have a professional team out there?
One of the things that we have done as a FUFA delegates and as leaders in this region is to bring these players closer. We tell them stories, our own stories. It depends. If you had a good story to tell, you know, stories also sell like any product in the market. If your story is not good, it's not going to sell. Nobody is going to buy it. So your story must be convincing and it must be factual. Do not tell lies so that they look at you and they look at you as a role model. There are quite a few players who actually, from time to time, they do call me, but they like the saying, you can take a horse to the well, but you can't force it to drink water. So those who have adhered, those who have felt it is necessary, have copied, they have listened, and then they have got something out of it. I take the example of URA goalkeeper, Alionji Nafian. Alionji Nafian was picked from Onduparaka here, and the condition that was given for his progression was URA, you are taking him, but kindly, apart from football, let him study. He's a graduate, as I speak right now. Now, if anything happens to his football, he's settled. He's done. He listened to advice. Then there are those who have gone out. Peter Okwi, Emma Okwi. Emma Okwi is, he calls me uncle. He comes from Teso, but the mom comes from Maracha. It's my cousin sister. He calls me uncle. And from time to time we interact. Every time I go to Tanzania when it was in December, I'll sit him down and talk to him. Every time I go to South Africa, I go to Zambia, I meet with Dennis Onyango, he still talks to me. Every time I go to Egypt, I find Ugandan players. They come around at the hotel, wherever I am, and we talk. The last time I went to Casablanca, I sat Muhammad Shaban. He was in Casablanca. I was in Casablanca for the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League. Of course, I had an interaction with him. Please, please, please hold our flag and raise it high. Other issues will come later. You are bound to face a lot of discrimination. You are bound to face a lot of, there are people who want you, they want you to fail. But please, be cool, concentrate on what brought you to Morocco here. At the end of the day, we shall all be proud of you.
A very big one, but of course, before maybe I'll be posing another question to you. This time around, the intermediary has been one of the big things. Someone comes and says, I have an agent who is this and that and that. Gaddafi, don't you think this is one of the things that is affecting the players in there? Very many in West Nile do not have agents. Very many say they have. and yet maybe it's a family friend, maybe it's a friend, and this. Do you think this is one thing that is confusing and making all these players have that way that they cannot really go straight to for professional football and do something? Do you think it's one of the factors that is affecting?
It could be, or probably it is. However, see, West Nile football has gone through a lot of changes. If you remember very well, 2005 we had we had not had so many tournaments that have brought out players. But 2005 we had the Mvarazono League, which produced a couple of players, Charles Letty, Sizo Kutis, Andama George. I think Cliff, let's see that I know. Cliff was also part of that. Exactly. So we've had these leagues. That one also collapsed. 2012, Mulinda tried reviving it with the West Nile Cup. After I left FUFA, it was also done. We've also had the Kids League. Trevor Dudley did start the Kampala Kids League. And after seeing the tremendous work in West Nile, the talent in West Nile, he said, I need to extend it this side. So we had the Arua Kids League, the Kids League right here, and it produced a lot of players. Over 20,000, I think 2,000 volunteers were trained to ensure that the game here is developed. And the kids grew up with the mentality, the basic, mental knowledge that, on how to progress in football. So if you look at, after that, we did see Onduparaga coming up, where many of our young stars, picked it up. The Jaib, Muhammad Shaban, and the likes, making it from there. So it's a general problem, not just in West Nile, but as a country, or probably Africa as a continent. We don't have grassroots setups to groom players. Look at Arua, how many academies do we have? Or West Nile, how many academies do we have that raise footballers from, giving them the basics of how to succeed in football. So I think that's where we can derive the conversation from, that we need to have academies that train and build the mental capacity of our youngsters as they're growing up. They know that, last time I was mentioning that someone says, I want to be like Messi. But what is Messi doing, to get where he is today? He's the biggest star that the world has. And what was he doing as he was growing up in the game? So these are all aspects. Our Mike Leta here is a delegate at the national level. And I'm looking at how we can actually have conferences or training or sort of gathering where we have players in our region come together and you speak to them and we follow up their, wherever they go, we follow them up and we try to make sure that they stay where they are, they progress in the game, because many of them want to play outside, outside the country at least. And they don't have the mental, the basic mental knowledge or capacity to withstand. The aspect of discipline also comes in. Of course, many times we've seen players coming back because they don't respect the coaches that they meet that side, because they're not used to their attitude. Right here, you find that a player in training decides to walk out, like just walks out of training, but the coach doesn't discipline such a player. But that side, it's a different story. Anything slight you do, you're punished for it. And our players cannot stand that. They're not used to that kind of environment. Here, we pamper them, when you do anything slight, it's okay. You understand the team, yes, babysit them. But at a professional level, it becomes tricky for them to progress. That's why they always fail. Most times they fail. We had Muhammad Shaban years ago. He was tipped to replace Oboa as the main number 9 of the Cranes. But where is he today? So there's a whole lot of conversation around how we can groom our players. So the mental, I think growing up, the mental, how to build the mental capacity to handle football as you grow up is very important for me.
Okay, that's one of the biggest from Joe Gaddafi. But of course, the question will be, what should be done for these players to get back again? Of course, just like he did highlight a few of them. And of course, now, this time around, West Nile, after all the leagues that you've talked about have gone off, West Nile. Of course, some of the members who love the sports have come up with a league or a tournament that they are calling as West Nile Popular 8. Now, this time around, we did see issues coming in there, and eyeballs have been raised that this very league is yet unofficial with the Federation of Uganda Football Association. We have a delegate by the names of Mike Letty in the studios, and he will be telling us, to you, also the viewers, what exactly it means to be, maybe to notify FUFA about this. Is it true it has not been notified? At least he's a representative. He would be knowing already. He will be telling us more about this. And if yes, what exactly will the notification to FUFA help this very, very tournament in progressing, because it's one of the tournaments that is going to be carried out as a pre-season game for, that is, the West Nile football clubs. We will be coming back to give you more of this, and I want to tell you, you can always go to our Facebook platform, and of course you can also share what we keep posting in there, and at the same time on our social the Twitter handle, you can also go still, and you have follow us on the Twitter handle at West Nile TV, and our Facebook platform, Twitter, and at the same time the YouTube channel is running on. Subscribe, and of course click on the bell. You will always be getting the notifications right there. Now, for you to win any of our products like the cap we're having in here, trust me, just do only one thing: go there, like, share, and at the same time subscribe. You will be right there in the channels of winning our prizes that we have. And I want to say, we're taking a break and we'll be right back. It's still the whistle time on West Nile TV. Stay right tuned to your TV.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Yes, welcome back from that break. It's been a very, very nice one having the whole team, of course, right here. We're still live, and we are the Whistle Timers right here, and it's the Whistle Time right at West Nile TV. You can still go to the Facebook, catch us live right there, and at the same time on our YouTube channel, we're streaming live. Just like and subscribe. Click on that bell. You will always be getting our notifications every time we have this very show right there. And you can also share with the best or with your friends. There you go. We are all over. And on that is the start time. You can follow us on channel 477. That is on your start time. So don't miss out that chance, because this is West Nile TV that is lighting up the region. We light up the region every day and now, so you should be one of the lucky ones following us, and of course we're lighting up the region with us together. We are very proud of you, and my name still remains Owen. It is the Whistle Time, but I still have Joe in the studios, and at the same time one of the legendaries, Mike Letty, who now is representing the FUFA, and of course in the West Nile region. He's a FUFA delegate right here. Now let's leave that there, but of course talk straight to the point on what we had started. West Nile Popular 8 is what people are talking about, and it is one of the big things that we of course have kept talking about. In the previous shows, we had a representative from the West Nile Popular 8 tournament, one of the organizers, who came through and told us a lot about this and the engagement that has also been going through into this very league. But this time around, let me turn the focus to the man Mike Letty yet again, because he is representing us in the federation. Have you got this notification of the West Nile Popular 8 that is set to have to start as a pre-season?
Thank you, Owen. Let's just run a background to what FUFA is all about.
Yes.
FUFA in full represents Federation of Uganda Football Associations.
Yes, please.
And if you just say FUFA Association, then you have missed the point. Legally, you'll be on the wrong side. It's associations, and what are these associations? FUFA is made up of 36 associations, and in short, I can mention a few of them. The 8 regions; these are all members of FUFA. I am not a member of FUFA, but I associate with the FUFA through West Nile region that I represent as a delegate. You can call it MP for football for West Nile. Then schools are there, women are there, ex-international players are there, players are there. Then you have beach football, futsal, and all that. Referees, there are many. It comprises FUFA. Now, in FUFA, we are engaged in football, and football cannot be called football unless there's a competition. And when you engage in competition, there are rules and regulations governing how these competitions are supposed to be run. And now, when you register with the FUFA, you play what we call association football. You are bound by rules and regulations. And some of these rules clearly state that all the mandate to run football, organize football activities, and run them is granted to FUFA, as far as Uganda is concerned. Meaning any tournament, any competition, of any sort, because FUFA is like the government, right up to the LC1. And our LC1 here, we can say, is the Arua District Football Association. LC2 is the region, the West Nile Region Football Association. Then the steps move further. So since we're bound by competition rules, that means there are many stakeholders, internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. We're here on TV. This is the media. This is the fourth estate. Yeah. You are a very, very integral part of football development. And you play a very big role. You give us visibility. Right now we're talking about football. People are already getting this information, and they are saying that indeed football is being played. And how are they seeing it? Like watching football in Barifa, Greenlight Stadium, you are doing it live. And this time we're talking about it. So anybody who would like to be engaged in football, like if I came to your village, whom do I ask before I can carry out assuming I just went to marry, the LC1 has got to be involved. He must know. For security reasons, we're living in the COVID times, SOPs have to be observed, and so many things have got to be put in place. Just in short, I'm hearing about this from the media. Nobody has come to talk to me about it. Neither has the region or the Rural District Football Association been notified of this. Okay. Neither FUFA, Chief Executive Officer Edgar Watson Subi, is not aware. But we are not saying that it is wrong. Okay. It's a good initiative, a very good initiative. Anybody who brings value to football is welcome. But let us follow the right procedures.
Let's look at this very, very, very tournament in there. It's one of the tournaments that could unite a lot and get teams up for preparation ahead of the 2021-2022 season. Not only that, they are saying this tournament is still going to be running yearly, and that's one of the big things that, of course, the tournament is all about. The West Nile Popular 8, couple of teams have been named in there. The draws, I did see them out, but of course, this time round, the federation still has not been notified. Is there any possibility, Mr. Letty, any possibility, or is it too late for the members of the organizers to have a notification to FUFA, because the level where this has reached, it is already in at least a level where you could say very soon the games will be kicking off. So if Yes. What should the organizers do to make sure this game or this tournament goes on? Because it's a 5 days tournament according to the reports that, of course, they did give whistle time right here. What should be, or what should they do to make sure that this tournament runs?
Actually, at this point in time, where they've reached, they will have to go full circle and start afresh. That is notify FUFA,
Okay.
or seek permission from FUFA that we intend to run a tournament of this magnitude involving the following teams. Just as I was telling you, we are involved in, I'm made to understand, like I said, I have not officially received any information about this, despite the fact that I'm a FUFA delegate representing Arua district, then as well as West Nile region. I'm made to understand a number of teams across the region are involved.
Yes.
But then there are levels of competition. There's the first division, which is the Star Times Uganda Premier League teams.
Yes.
Then the second division, which is the big league. The third division, the regional league. And these are teams that associate through their relevant bodies. I mean, bringing all this together. Two, how are you going to, how would you come up with the fixtures without first of all seeing the calendar for FUFA? First of all, where will they get the calendar for FUFA? Since they have not made initial communication with the FUFA. FUFA will tell them, first of all, they will apply to FUFA and say, we will intend to run ABCD. Then the next thing is FUFA will say, how do you intend to do this? They have to synchronize with the FUFA, because FUFA competitions take precedence over any other thing. Just like FIFA. If there's a FIFA, like next weekend, there's a FIFA competition going to take place. That means CAF cannot organize any CAF competitions in Africa as long as the FIFA, the big tree falls on the small one.
Okay.
And when CAF organizes, Uganda cannot, FUFA cannot say that CAF things, we defer them. We start with ours. No. So the big tree keeps on falling on the small one, and that is how the whole thing is. So the FUFA calendar is out. That one I know. But then, where do they intend to slot this competition? Doesn't it interfere with the FUFA activities? Right now, registration of players is going on. And then three, now if you talk of having competitions, you are going to need qualified referees.
Yes, please.
And these qualified referees, you don't simply just go and pick them from their homes to come and officiate games. You have to request for them. Now, before you have not made known your intentions to have football played. Now, all of a sudden, you are coming to pick a referee. I can assure you, such a referee who goes and officiates a game minus authorization from FUFA will be suspended, if not even banned for life. Two, it goes to the players. Any FUFA licensed player is not allowed to play in any competition that is not authorized by FUFA. So it goes full circle. You have to go back to start from where you should have started.
So where does this leave the tournament?
It's not too late. They can still apply to FUFA and sit down with FUFA and synchronize and harmonize. One of the reasons why I'm saying this is FUFA has other stakeholders, the sponsors. Some of these sponsors are direct competitors. We don't want to run into legal complications here and there. Assuming you have, West Nile TV is sponsoring us. Then MTV comes in and wants to slot in a competition where West Nile TV is already. This is an example. These are direct competitors.
Yeah.
It will not work. So that's how it is. All I'm saying is, FUFA is never against anybody who brings any activity that is going to develop football, but it must be done in the proper way. And FUFA, I can assure you, will never say, FUFA in most cases cannot say no, as long as the intentions are very clear and it is meant to develop football. So it's not too late. They can still get in touch with the FUFA to synchronize.
Okay, it's still not too late for the organizers probably to make sure that they get to the federation. I'm talking about FUFA, about all the things in West Nile or the West Nile Popular 8. But look at something in there. Players, I've seen players' issues coming in there, something that we will be discussing later on in length, because one of the players from the other club has crossed over to the other training on the other one's consent, of course not knowing. Those are some of the things that probably will be having that discussion with you later on issues over these very issues, because you've seen the federation have read at least through their rules and regulations on how players and of course the coaches, the managers, how it's supposed to be run, and that is one of the things that you will be clarifying to us later on. But before that, Joe, now that this is one thing, you've been a player for quite a long time, and this issue has not reached to the federation. Do you see success in this tournament that is to be played? And then two, it is something like a pre-season. Don't you think it just needed to go without notifying FIFA?
Well, that would be massacre. Because as far as I'm concerned, you know, activities of football have a regulator, just like any other sector in this country. You don't wake up one day and just do something.
But we play games here, even including licensed players.
Well, probably FIFA is not aware. We do not know. But speaking of what is happening on ground right now, it would be interesting to note that the person that represents the region as a delegate, it does not know about a development on ground at the moment. So how will FIFA be able to know? Because I would be interested in knowing how they have liaised with a delegate, because he understands the calendar of FIFA. He knows the activities of FIFA, and therefore how the league can also be struck, because anything that adds value to the game should be appreciated. And therefore, if we have a league like this, which is coming up, that's going to allow the players to express themselves and also get ready for the upcoming season, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but it should be within the means of the federation, because it is the federation that governs football activities in this country. So if we talk about the league, the league which has been proposed, I'm probably looking at a DFA, you know, as part of this. And as a DFA, I think you already understand how, you know, football is structured from the local level and going upwards. There are certain protocols you follow. And if FIFA does not know about a league which is going to attract licensed players, because I've heard about Onduparaka, Calvary being part of the league. These clubs play under FIFA, you know, and if they end up playing in a league that FIFA doesn't recognize and has not okayed to happen, I think they would have problems with the federation.
But don't you think also it is one thing that is there, because I'm seeing maybe it could be a communication gap between because really someone coming up in a day that I need to do this in Arua district, you have the DFA, maybe they have already informed the DFA, maybe they have already informed the region. Maybe don't you think there's that there's that gap between this, let's say the CEO of the West Nile region plus the delegates? Maybe there's that gap there, because for something to come like this, even being published, do you still see that maybe all this has happened without anyone's notice? Because that's one thing that is going on. It is publicly put.
We have had issues of miscommunication.
Yes.
In many times. And if you look critically, as much as if you want something done, as much as there are problems, you follow the protocol. And I'm yet to understand if really protocols were followed, because before you
because the FIFA delegate has not received. We need to know whether the CEO of the region has received
exactly
any information.
And you know, it's very good to share, because if the FIFA delegate actually stays there,
yes,
you know, it stays in Arua. So we were looking at how they would come and say, you know, we want to start this, and they get the proper guidance on how they can actually make it fruitful. Because at the end of the day, when you start something without understanding into details whatever lies ahead of you, you end up, you know, not succeeding, and yet it's something that could be very nice for the game.
Let's look at what exactly will be coming, but of course, looking at this, don't you think you people are having some communication gap before we round up this very second edition?
Yeah, really, there's no communication gap. Because with the modern trend of communications, there's the social media. That is the unofficial means of communicating. It's just a drums up support on official. We operate on standard procedures. Okay. If there's anything that is meant for us, it is given to us in the means through circulars. Now, immediately we had this, of course, informally, we put the TCO to task. We've heard of ABCD taking place. How come you have not informed us? He says, no, I've not received any communication, apart from me being included in a WhatsApp group.
Okay.
He was included in a WhatsApp group. Now, that is the far that he was concerned, and we immediately picked up an interest in the whole thing and said, no, it can't be. First of all, you are an employee of the region. You must get express permission from the chairman to allow you to be able to be part of, because by joining a WhatsApp group, an organization that is organizing football, you are almost you are not joining an association.
You're part of the team.
You are part of the team now. Now, if you are part of the team already organizing, and yet your chairman is not aware, your executive that approves your employment. By the way, CEOs are employees of FUFA. They are fully paid by FUFA. They are paid up employees. They work under Edgar's office. That means he's the direct person who gets information from Edgar, the chief executive officer of FUFA. So he doesn't have that information. I can categorically, clearly state that we don't have that information because we asked our CEO and he categorically stated, even if he was here, he will tell you he has never got any communication, apart from being added to a WhatsApp group.
Okay, let's wait and see. Moses is the CEO of, that is the Western region. Maybe one day we shall be getting to him and see what he will be telling us about this, because it's one of the development that is going very much. The tournament has already, the issues or the way that the tournament is going has already reached very far. But of course, without FUFA knowing, according to the reports coming in from the FUFA delegate, who would be liking to know more about all this. But we are going to be taking a break. As we come back to finalize all this, you're still watching West Nile TV, and it's the whistle time.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome back from that break, and I want to say we are right in the last hours of our show, and the whistle time still continues on West Nile TV, channel 477 on Star Times, and at the same time we are on the free-to-air decoders. You can also be part of it. You can get yourself free-to-air decoder. If you don't really know where to get, you can come to West Nile TV, grab yourself one, and you have that free, of course, to air channels that are all there. And West Nile TV is inclusive. You just don't pay a subscription, I could say. You get it for once and for all. You enjoy the home TV as we keep lighting up the region, and on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and at the same time on our YouTube. You can still follow us. Don't really hesitate to follow. We live stream all our shows right there. So this is West Nile TV, and we still back again for this edition, but we are now talking about why players in West Nile, after failing to penetrate through the national team of Uganda, why have they switched their allegiances to South Sudan? We've seen very many players who have gone in leaving Uganda, of course going after. Some of them have even been called in the national team of Uganda, but they have switched off away from here. This time around, I want to start it with Joe. Maybe he has been friends to these players. You've played with some of these players. Maybe they could have been telling you some of the reasons why they have left Uganda national team to go that side? What could be the reason? Okay, that is what I'm thinking, but it would be something not like that. Let's talk about this. Why do you think we've seen Gibson, we've seen Twaha Rashid currently also being for South Sudan, we've seen Tito Okello, who has also been here, he has also crossed over. What would be the reason for some of the Ugandan players, let me categorize it, Ugandan players, switching their allegiances from Uganda to Sudan?
Last year, if you remember, in November, during the AFCON 2021 qualifiers, the same Tito Okello frustrated us, Team Uganda in Nyayo Stadium in Nairobi, when he scored that one goal, you know, where we lost as a country. So it speaks a lot. We have lost a couple of players to South Sudan, and it looks like the roots of this issue are deeper than just not being good enough to play in the national team. Right now, if you look at the setup of FIFA, being stationed in the central region, there are so many opportunities that people up country, especially in West Nile, are missing out. The games that are being broadcasted by FIFA are done in a language we don't understand. Secondly, probably the delegate is here, he will be able to give us some info on that. And then you look at the different things that FIFA does, the language of communication doesn't favor many of us who don't understand what's going on. Okay. And when these guys go to the national team, I think we have, many of them speak a specific language at the same time. And I probably want to believe, because I spoke to one of them, that he feels isolated, you know, when he's at the national team, because the language that is used there doesn't favor him. He has nothing to say, apart from maybe he needs something, and then so the grouping, it also goes down to the grouping that happens at the camp. We've had these players talking of the groupings, and if you look at most of the players that are normally summoned, they are locally based, especially play right from home. When we had during the Onduparaka time, we had many players being summoned from here, and so going there with that, you know, feeling of not really having played with these guys from the other side in the same team and knowing them, they've always played among them, or associated among themselves, a new environment, going into the camp, and so a lot of issues. But I think we need to streamline how players are, you know, kept at the camp. I was seeing just recently, I think Waiswa was on Twitter telling people, you know, using FUFA's official Twitter handle, that, you know, we're at the camp and we have this and that, we have Bobosa here, but he was not communicating in a language we understand. So I think language has been a big issue. Recently, I saw a post by one of the commentators of the Premier League. I was like, he was asking something, and then one of our media personalities was like, I mean, if there's, because he was asking, what can we change, you know, to make Uganda Premier League more interesting? He was like, if you could just speak in a language I understand, and I think it would be at par. So our West Nilers crossing that side, we've seen a couple of them of late. Of course, you mentioned Twaha Rashid. And Jared Nefian was also rumored to have been interested.
Even right now, as I talk, anytime you could see a coach being called
by South Sudan national team. And if you look critically, you realize that it's only our players from West Nile or Northern Uganda that majorly cross to play for South Sudan. Maybe because of the proximity from Northern Uganda to South Sudan. But players from the other regions don't cross. Maybe we shall also have to consider that as well. But I think we need to really give in the kind of attention our players deserve, especially from our region, that they need to feel part of this country. And recently, when a few were summoned to the national team, they were again bounced back, although I expected Nefian to have remained as part of the team. I'm not the coach. Gift Ali, yes, but I would give, you know, a chance for Nefian. Okay. If I'm to pick one to have remained.
Okay, let's leave that then. I'll cross over to, that is the FUFA delegate. Don't you think This time around, Uganda looks at these players of not being, of course, looks at the players not being really of maybe a value to them in the national team, but the neighboring country takes these players and uses them, and they're giving havoc to Uganda as a national team. We have talked about Tito Okello, who, of course, in the national team is not being featuring, but when he went to South Sudan, he has got to play. He is the key man. He's that guy who scored the goal, the game at St. Mary's Stadium. I watched him. He terrorized Uganda like nothing. He had all it takes. Is it because these boys are maybe underestimated, or these boys do not give what exactly Uganda needs?
Thank you. I think let us look at some of the factors which makes players move. One of them is the feeling that I'm good enough to play in the national team, and I'm not being summoned. Of course, to fit in the national team, we have thousands and thousands of players, but at the end of the day, they can only summon about 25 to 30 of you, the whole country. And now that we have players like the Okwis who have been featuring outside Uganda, they'll always look at them first and then add on to the rest. But I think if you look at, even locally, we have our local clubs here. We as fans, because apart from being a FUFA delegate and a former player and other things, I'm also a fan. I'm also a fan. I have my own ways of saying that I think Owen is a better player than Gaddafi. But the technical team looks at something different. It's progression. Along the way, as you're playing during the league, they're checking, they're seeing how we are progressing. For goalkeepers, Ajaib, of course, he finds himself competing with the Lukwagos, this one of Express. Now, if you look at this goalkeeper of Express, he's a league winner, he's a Sakafa winner. They look at that. Of course, he takes the first lot. Then two, we have other goalkeepers. You look at this one, Lukwago. Lukwago comes in. Then you look at this goalkeeper who went to South Africa.
James Alitho.
Alitho went to South Africa. They look at him. Then there is the other one also. There were two from Sierra Leone. He's in Mamelodi, but he was loaned out. At one moment, he played against Onyango, Mamelodi against his team, where he was loaned, and it ended in a 0-0 draw. Now, there are many ways players look at. One can be a motivation to play. Since I'm not wanted here, possibly I can fit in here. And South Sudan is actually taking advantage of that. And our boys find themselves playing. Then there are players who cross over. Kylian Mbappe is a Cameroonian. I don't know how many people know that he's a Cameroonian. He's a Cameroonian, but he has chosen to play for France. He could have played for Cameroon. Next week I have a game. Sudan is playing Guinea-Bissau. Possibly Paul Pogba and Ansu Fati will be featuring in Khartoum. But Paul Pogba is playing for France. Ansu Fati is now Spanish. Really, they would have loved to play for their countries like Aubameyang. Aubameyang could have played for Germany, could have played for any other country, but he chose to play for Gabon. Samuel Eto'o decided to remain Cameroonian. So there are many factors which actually motivate these players. I don't want to think for them. I really don't want to think for any player that he chose to go and play because of A, B, C, D. But to my understanding, it's the frustration of not being able to play for your own country. And let me just take you back a bit. During our times, for you to earn a call in the national team, of course, those factors are there. The language barrier is there. But FUFA, official language of FUFA, should any official of FUFA really conduct FUFA business, including football coaching, in any other language other than English? It's in the statutes. It's very clear. That is indiscipline. Actually, that official should be sanctioned. We assume that most of the players that we have in the camp, these are people who have at least gone to Before UPE came, at least someone has gone to P7, can speak English. Now that we have Mitchell, where we've had foreign coaches, I think the language factor also plays. Like I was telling you, I had an issue where you abused the rest of the staff. I was forced to learn Luganda. I was forced to learn Luganda simply because I didn't want to be backbited. I didn't want somebody to backbite me. I didn't want somebody to plan against me. I knew the language, though I refused to speak Luganda. But right now, you can't speak Luganda and backbite me without me even knowing it. I'll answer you back. So, really, some of those factors are true. They are groupings. Now, assuming it was the other way around, assuming there were about 6 Luganda players in the national team, will you stop them from speaking Luganda? They will feel comfortable. They will actually communicate in Luganda. So, these are some of the factors, but at the end of it all, really, we had one thing. We saw so many factors working against us, but we decided one thing: our football is going to force you to recognize. You will recognize me, whether you like it or not. I'm going to play, and I'm going to be part and parcel of that team, and you're going to respect me. And we forced our way through that way.
Let's talk about the play time that players are not getting. And just like in England, you did see Honorable Wan-Bissaka telling the England team, if I'm not going to be used, please allow me to go to Congo, and I go and play for Congo. That's one of the biggest ones in there, because he played for them in the under 23, where he had a lot of course, impact in that team. Now, still with the national team, we have seen in Uganda, players are called, players are summoned. Even the players you've talked about, they first look at those outside players. Ask yourself, how many times do these players fit or feature for their clubs that they are playing for out there? What statistics do these coaches or does FUFA put clear to these people to take before calling these players? Talk about Ali Daucho when he was clubless, but he was called. Patrick Kadu, when he left, he has not been playing. It's even of my surprise that this season he's been left out, but again, after investigations, it shows that he had some injury. That's the reason why he's still out. But otherwise, he was summoned. So, what is that really? Because there are some players who are called. Do they call them on merits? Do they call them because they have gone to play outside? Because we saw Shaban, one of the players who was playing for Raja Casablanca, he was summoned. But when he came back into the country, he has now been one of the names in there when he left. But he has not been a very all the time. What could be the challenge? So which criteria does Federation put forward to these coaches when they are coming to someone in there?
The Federation puts in place a technical team. And part of their job, they are fully paid. When even the national team is not playing, they are supposed to be monitoring all players who are playing. The ones who are playing outside Uganda, we may not physically see them, but we've got the TVs. We can easily see their progression in those areas. Then the ones who are playing at home here, you look at the number of times. Actually, one time during our playing time, a substitute goalkeeper was called to the national team. And we took it up, and it was a hot debate. And this same player was actually being included on the team, and they wanted to drop one player at the airport, Entebbe Airport, I'm telling you, to be replaced by a ministry official. Now, that was when we jumped. We jumped, we said, fine, board the plane, go and play. We're not going. So it was until when we spoke with unity that all players boarded and then went. So you bear witness with me that there are times those loopholes exist. But now, the Federation has undergone a transformation. The way the technical setup right now is totally different from the technical setup of my days. It's totally different. We now have almost about 20 technical staff attached to the national team. So they are doing their work, and we expect results from them. That's why you're seeing the labor turnover. Within a short time, you see a coach has been fired because he is not doing professionally his job. We assume that these are professional people. So it is the technical team that does the work on our behalf. So at the end of the day, if it is a success, we will take it up. If it is a failure, you have every right to throw stones at us.
Okay, let's wind this up. It has been a very nice time having you in this very show of Whistle Time at West Nile TV. And I want to say, just in a summary, Joe, let's wind this up with a few words and remarks, probably. First of all, I want to thank you because you're always right there for me. And I want to thank my guest for coming through because it has not been an easy one. And you're welcome once again. Anytime, you can still come in there and probably we'll always be very, very happy to be with you because we still need you. We still have a lot that we will be needing from you. Joe, in summary, you saw the draws of UEFA Champions League.
Yeah.
Which group looks to be group of death before we get off the studios?
Me, I want to look at the easier group. Because United find themselves with, the
easier group.
The same the finalists they had in the Europa League finals and Villarreal. So maybe a good chance for a revenge after that loss. They have a very good group where they would be really progressing. Locally, see, football is an amazing game, and we would like to see it grow in the region. And so we all have a role to play. We have our delegates. We are blessed with a lot of talent. So I'm just looking forward to seeing more of our young guys make it out there.
Okay, let's wind it up. What exactly are you as a FUFA delegate telling out to, that is, the people in West Nile, and what exactly should they, because football right now is a business, what do you say to the clubs and of course the upcoming, the current and the others who are also still trying to come up?
I would say football is like education. My generation, they never had that chance of going to a nursery school before crossing over to P1. Gaddafi is part of that glorious team which formed the Arua Kids League. And we can see the results. His colleagues, Tabo, Vitalis, Gift Ali, Ajaib, and many of them, they are established players. I will urge West Nile as a region, let's go back and develop the youth right from down. Gaddafi's age. I remember Gaddafi, a very tiny, small boy. Today he has beards. He has beards today. And I'm very happy to be sitting here now talking about football. That is progression. So really, let's go back to basics. Let us at any level concentrate on getting our coaches, equipping them so that they give the right stuff to our young ones, such that when they are 15, 16, 17, they are able to now to play very good football. This business of beginning to play football at 17 is totally irrelevant. Let us go back to the basics. In our small ways, let us revive the academies. And through these academies, I'm telling you, we now have 2 teams in the Premier League. And West Nile is actually, apart from Kampala and Jinja, we can now comfortably talk of West Nile as a football powerhouse in this region. Thank you so much for hosting me, and I look forward to more interactions. Thank you, West Nile TV.
Our family modi himina manesi ama yemina ma West Nile TV and individual Whistle Time amava wadia akani mayo mira amavudiki digital media delegate ingazu the other say mutite de amani yo mupira no nepre maria njamani yo kibingi alene yo ebenzer maria manira mini du alani si bini nekini etomi as a quarantine kale mu club yani mayo mini the others misu my kalete in velearo nezukini ne advisors ki family so so club be dia wadia adbi jo mina wadi 4 mini amanesi micho misu di channel itaken Star Times maria su aziri mi Star Times decode kanga je kwani le mite biba mivuzo wada tozo amanezo poli chibira azo wada maria mito mini mudi bano mve itaken si free to air decode maria nezukini bite amabitu alo mini amanezo poli chi awada maria amedivi mini ama itaken social media maria mito mudi Facebook wala kali Twitter kali ko di Instagram mivina mesu di YouTube wala ma website ikivira binsi tema yo mini ikamuda be pelo amani tsorai mini tozo afazi isuzu adi amabeti amani kofie kikefe kali ko afazi ndi ndo kipe mi ovema lusi owen our friend na meresi. Let's catch up again till again tomorrow as we shall be getting you, but of course more of the programs will be coming up next. Stay tuned.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region. West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Welcome for this edition of the Whistle Time. Yet again, I am called Owen and you are watching West Nile TV. The Whistle Time starts with another interesting one as Uganda, of course, running over in the Afro basket.